Welcome to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Got another good show lined up for you this week, and I know you'll think so after viewing it. It's a clip show, our best of. For all the guests we've had, we've got some fantastic interviews. If you've missed them the first time they aired, we're going to rerun them for you tonight. And also, if you have seen them, enjoy them again. So thanks for tuning in. I know you'll enjoy it. And here we go with Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara.
When you're a farmer, there's a lot of things you can't control. But there is a way to give your soybeans an early advantage. Mershman Seeds soybean seed treatment featuring Turpidity ST. An independent analysis has proven faster and more even emergence every time. Just look at the Mershman difference. Give your crop the boost it needs for a uniform stand. For the best yields, grow with us. Mershman Seeds.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we are participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, service it, and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Farming makes a positive difference in my life. I love to take care of the yards and the flowers in the garden, but I also like the opportunity that I have now that I can get in the combine and help when they need that. During the fall, one of the main things that I take care of is hauling grain to the elevator or hauling it here onto the farm and getting it in the bins. Women in general just have more opportunities that they can show their strengths today on the farm.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. I'm pleased to be joined, as you can see on the screen, by my buddy Kent McCausland. You can see Kent's information on the bottom as well as mine. And we've had Kent on the show before, and we're going to do a season capper on the Hawkeyes, as tough as it was. And first and foremost, as always, Kent, thanks for joining us. And secondly, unfortunately, it was very foreboding what you said a couple of weeks ago when you had mentioned your group in 1999 being the last Hawkeye team to make it to the Sweet 16. Unfortunately, did not work for the Hawkeyes this year. Tough loss to Oregon, who is now just was playing lights out. And we record this on Monday afternoon and not our usual Tuesdays. So Oregon loses last night to USC. But I'll tell you what, Ken, it was a buzzsaw the Hawkeyes faced in Oregon.
Well, you know, the first thing I did was check the stats last night. Oregon playing Southern Cal. Southern Cal, very athletic, also played a zone, very active zone, but the percentages, 37% from the field for Oregon, 23 from three. Are you kidding me? You know, they come out and lay an egg, and I think you could tell, and not to make excuses, right? This is March Madness, stuff happens, right? But they don't have to play a first game. They really just have to prep for one team, and that's the Hawkeyes. And they came out and they were very energetic, you know, playing at noon or what have you, and they were all over the place. And I remember listening to the pregame, and they mentioned, you know, Dana Altman was thinking, I'm going to know within the first 3 to 5 minutes whether or not we're ready to go and if we're going to play well. And he based it on energy and knocking down shots. Were they going to be tight and not making shots and not have energy and play tentative? And obviously they came out, they had tons of energy and they were fresher. And when you compare it to some of the bodies that we had that were ailing with CJ Frederick, Connor McCaffrey, even Jordan Bohannon, all of them had either surgeries or were kind of ailing. I think it was very apparent who the fresher team was, and they didn't have to play that first game.
Yeah, you know, and Joe Wieskamp was nicked up a little bit. Of course, Luke has been beat up all year long. But the thing that really got my attention, and a lot of people are talking about this, I know a guy a few years after you, Greg Bruner, former Hawkeye great and still the all-time leading rebounder, I had Adam Haluska on the show last week, and we were talking about Greg's comments on social media, how the Pac-12 has seemed to push the ball up the floor, a lot of movement with screening and movement, where the Hawkeyes and the rest of the Big Ten, hey, it's no secret, you know, Michigan's the only team left out of 9 that were invited to the big dance. And Kent, you know, Greg had talked about how the Big Ten seems to dribble the air out of the ball. And I think a lot of that, you take a look at different styles, but as you mentioned what Dana Altman, coach at Oregon, said, hey, are we going to come out fresh and ready? You know, Ken, it's always that debate of rest over rust. You know, the Hawkeyes, if they'd have come out guns a-blazing, people would have said, well, the Hawks got to play a game on Saturday, so they were ready to roll on Monday. Conversely, Oregon had 10 days off because their opening round game against VCU canceled their game, and they moved into the next round against the Hawkeyes. So there's always that rest versus rust debate. But Kent, one thing I wanted to circle back, and we can hit the rest of the tournament here in just a minute, but before we move on about the Hawkeyes, I find it interesting that everybody's talked about, are we going to get this tournament in? How's it going to play out with COVID? Well, that's the only game, one game, that's been canceled so far this postseason of March Madness. We have 7 games left. Again, we're recording this on Monday afternoon. 2 tonight, 2 Tuesday, 2 Saturday, and 1 next Monday for the championship. It is interesting that there's only been 1 postponement or cancellation.
Yeah, I just say kudos to the kids and the staff. I mean, you got to be kidding me to get through this season. Literally testing for COVID every day on a daily basis. Not exactly fun if any of our viewers have ever had to have it done. And they're doing everything they can to be safe and to really be quarantined from their families and friends for several months, just to make sure that they can get a tournament in and get games in for us to watch on television. Any fans and any people that I've come into contact with that were pretty frustrated with the Hawkeyes losing to Oregon, I just remind them we're lucky that we got to watch this team, a top 10 Iowa basketball team, play an entire season. And what a bummer that we didn't get to go to Carver Hawkeye to watch them play. And can you imagine how loud it would have been? Like the BJ Roy and Eddie teams of old. You know, it would have been loud and raucous and probably go undefeated at home if you can have that kind of energy. So thankful that the kids did it, the staff and everybody that had to be involved in that. I agree. Only 1 game so far. So far it's working, right? Whatever the NCAA has put into place in Indianapolis and surrounding areas has worked. Pretty cool that Hinkle and Mackey and Assembly Hall, all those venues involved. So just kind of cool.
Yeah, it really is, and we talk about the women's tournament going on as well, and the Hawkeye women had a nice representation and lost a tough game to UConn, number 1 seed. But I'll tell you what, when you talk about that, the only people that were affected besides VCU not being able to play was the officials, and a lot made jokes about TV Teddy, the official, and how everybody, he went out to dinner with some other officials and 6 officials got sent home. But other than that, and the VCU game, there have been no occurrences, no test positives. Everything's gone smoothly. And as you mentioned, Kent, it is truly a testament to the players, the families, the coaches, the administrators. I'll even give the NCAA a little tip of the cap, which is unusual for me, but they deserve it in this case. So let's do this, Kent. Let's get back to the Hawkeye season as a whole, and you take a look at what's happening. Obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, but pretty much a foregone conclusion, Luke is going to be gone, although this year didn't count for anybody as eligibility goes. Jordan Bohannon could come back, but won't. Wieskamp, a lot of people are up in the air. I'm not. I think he's gone. Do you think Joe Wieskamp comes back next year?
I have no insider information whatsoever, but if you look at what the NBA values right now, and you look at almost how you have to leave earlier than expected because the NBA loves to draft on potential, then he has an opportunity in front of him that he has to make a decision about. I can't tell you if he's gone or if he's staying. Obviously, as a fan of Iowa basketball, I'd love to see him stay. But when you're talking about a guy that can shoot it and shoot it from deep and shoot it in people's faces, can defend multiple positions and can get up and down the floor, is athletic, you're talking about a guy that the NBA looks at and is going to have an interest in. And so you still got to go through the process. You got to work out for teams. You got to go to an NBA team and then work out against 3 or 4 guys that are estimated to be in your same draft position. And then how do you play against those 3 people? So it's cutthroat. It's a business, and very interesting to see, kind of how the process plays out. But he's talented enough if he wants to try to make that leap and go play. And then you still got to go make a living. You still got to go play. You got to produce. Otherwise, you're going to be gone pretty quick, and then you can be looking for other opportunities elsewhere to play basketball.
That's true, and nor do I have any insider information on Wieskamp. It's just my feeling, and as you mentioned too, I think he's well suited for the pro game, the way he runs, jumps, and shoots, and handles it, and everything else you mentioned. So we'll see how that plays out. But what's coming back, we know for sure. Keegan Murray and Patrick McCaffrey and that fine young group. Then obviously people are talking about, are there going to be transfers in the guard court? Does Ulis come back? Does Toussaint come back? Are people upset upset? Perkins, does he come back? Are players and people upset because they didn't get the playing time they so needed or wanted? And you saw down the stretch, all three of those guards played extensively once injuries and foul trouble hit. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are about any of those three guards. Again, neither one of us have inside scoops on that. I'm just curious on your thought, being a former Hawkeye player, and you know what it's like with guys jockeying for playing time, especially the younger guys moving forward. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on those three, specifically in Perkins, Ulis, and Toussaint.
You bet. Well, I just think the world has changed, right? The transfer portal is full of names, right? So what opportunities are there for Iowa to bring people into the program? They got to fit. What opportunities are there for Hawkeyes that would maybe want to leave the program? I don't know what's in the minds of any of those kids or their families on making decisions. What I do see is that Perkins, I thought, got very good playing time throughout the year and got the opportunity to show what he could do. And I think he's a great athletic body that's only going to get better. So I think that's a great opportunity to stay. Ulis, I really liked how he played in the Oregon game. And why I say that is he was always looking for teammates, always looking to set up other guys, not someone in there looking for his own shot, which was what you would think a guard would do when they came into that situation. I want to show what I can do. He looked like he was running the offense. And so to me, someone who's believing in what's going on in the program, Toussaint, I've never heard a word out of Iowa City saying that he doesn't truly enjoy his experience in Iowa City. So I don't know why, there'd be a lot of rumors other than just people get nervous about losing good talent. You look at Keegan, you look at Patrick McCaffrey, two fantastic athletes that are going to take the next step. A lot of talent in Iowa City. And Coach McCaffrey always kind of plays to his talent. He figures out a way to win games with the talent that he has around him. And I've never seen a team like Iowa this year that just kept feeding the post. And it's not like we did that before, but we had Luka Garza. So this is how we're going to play. And I thought that they did a very good job of adapting their game to what they had. And they'll do it again next year.
Yeah.
And they see what they have.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. And you take a look, the other question mark is going to be Jack Nunge, the health of Jack Nunge. How well can he come back? We've seen this before where he's had to come back from injury. And how many more times can we go to the well on that? I just hope that he's able to be healthy in life, let alone play basketball again. So I think that big question mark with Jack Nunge in the middle as well. Everything looks and sounds good. Again, I don't have any inside information. David Eicholt, our Hawkeye insider, we've talked about this. It's so early in that injury process with Jack. He's coming along nicely, but you won't know until we get ready for next year, Ken.
Yeah, I mean, you feel horrible for he had a pretty rough year, right? And as you rehab and you try to get stronger, I thought he did a fantastic job of doing that, in preparation for this year. And then to have the injury hit him again, very difficult. And your body just breaks down. I mean, after a while, I think they're just going to have to really watch his minutes. And I think you're going to need some help there in the backcourt or in the front court and see who can step up and help. And so hopefully he can come back and play at a level that he feels good about and can get up and down without too much pain. But to your point, we're talking about the next 50, 60 years maybe of his life. Can he get in an airplane? Can he travel? Can he do things like that? And those are pretty important items as you grow old. So.
Yeah, we can all relate to that. And, as we wrap this up, Kent, I wanted to say to you, it's interesting that Fran McCaffrey has his extension through the next 7 or 8 seasons. Got a lot of fresh young talent coming back, as we talked about, with some experience. And then you take a look at the Hawkeyes can build off, hey, they didn't go to the Sweet 16. They lost going into the Sweet 16 against an extraordinarily hot Oregon team, as you mentioned. But they had a victory over Grand Canyon University in their first game. So there are a lot of positives building and moving forward. There's a lot of stability in this program as far as recruiting goes, or transfers in the transfer portal, as you mentioned. That's still up in the air. But it's been great going through this journey with you the 3 times you've been on this show, and I'm going to have you back one time through the summer leading into the season. I want to break this news tonight. A lot of you who know me know this, but we're going statewide with this show starting in May. So that'll be in the Des Moines market, Sioux City, Omaha, Council Bluffs, so throughout the whole state, and not just on Fox 28 KFXA in the eastern Iowa Cedar Rapids area. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the state, even though they see you, on your other show with your dad, Mac McCausland, and our buddy and mutual friend, Rob Brooks. And again, you can go to at Kent McCausland to find out the location of that program. But the state knows you well anyway from your great playing days as a Hawkeye, still the all-time leader in career three-point percentage and season three-point percentage. Kent McCausland, former Hawkeye sharpshooting great. So I'm looking forward to catching up with you this summer before we get into next season, Kent.
Sounds good. I look forward to it. And hopefully that 1999 Sweet 16 team, we break that at some point. I thought it'd be this year, but hopefully in the near future.
You know what they say, Kent, streaks are made to be broken. So you're exactly right. Hopefully you're right on that. My friend, thanks so much, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you, sir.
One word means more to farmers than any other: yield. Nobody knows this better than your friend in the field, Mershman Seeds. With industry-leading seed treatments like Turpidity ST, you'll see faster emergence and more bushels per acre. Become a part of the Mershman family and see the difference in your field. Mershman Seeds.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair, upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
There is a spot for women in agriculture. There's many places for females, for female farmers. We can do a lot. Over the years, maybe we couldn't have always done everything, but there's lots of places we're finding on our dairy farm especially that females are really good at milking cows. They're really good caretakers. They're good at taking care of animals and observant and detail-oriented, which fits in well on a farm and can make an operation more successful.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. And as you can see on the screen, my buddy James Vandenberg. He's back. It's been a while, and we want to talk some spring football. And I thought, who better than James Vandenberg to talk to, former Hawkeye quarterback great. James also now with the Cordo Investment Group. You got the quarterback in James Vandenberg, the former Iowa quarterback, and you got the former Iowa wide receiver in Bill Happel Jr. Great partnership for your financial future. So again, Cordo Investment Group's very own James Vandenberg. James, I told you off the air. Well, first of all, thanks for joining us as always, and great to have you back. Good to see you. It's been a while. You doing okay?
Thanks for having me, Dave. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah. Well, I was just telling our friend Joe Mershman, I said, it's been a while since I've talked to James, and started thinking, who better than James Vandenberg to talk about spring football, either having it, not having it, especially being a quarterback at Iowa. And the name Spencer Petras is on everybody's coming out of their mouth thinking, how's he going to do this year? So James, first of all, the highlights of James Vandenberg, I wanted to regale you in what you had said as you're smiling here. Now get ready. It's all good. You had mentioned when the Hawkeyes started 0-2 this year, and everybody was piling on Spencer Petras and what's wrong, and they had games they shoulda, coulda, woulda won, had leads, couldn't close out. And you had talked about this way back in November. You said, Dave, I'm not making excuses, but without a spring football, traditional spring football, and now he's into the starting lineup. Oh, by the way, James, and he had of his majority of interceptions were in those first couple games. He closes out the year with more touchdowns, far more touchdowns than interceptions, 5 in the last 2 games. Has a very nice year. Hawks go 6-2 on a 6-game win streak. Unfortunately, the Michigan game was canceled because of their issues with COVID, as was the Missouri Bowl game against Missouri was canceled because of Missouri's issues with COVID. So even back in November, you spot on hit this, my friend, that I think, I don't want to overblow the expectations, but with a spring football under his belt as a starting quarterback, this is only going to make Spencer Petras and the Hawkeye offense better, but just the team in general. You talk about his backups in Deuce Hogan and also in Alex Padilla. Your former offensive coordinator, Ken O'Keefe, was talking about as a quarterback's coach now how much everybody's benefiting from this. So I'm going to step aside, let you talk a little bit about the development of the team, but then also the offense and a quarterback at Iowa, especially in spring football, please.
Well, yeah, when you think about kind of the schedule during the season, I mean, it's really only 1s and 2s that take the majority of reps as you prep for a week. And so, I mean, spring football is kind of the foundation as a young guy or a developmental guy is how they term it at Iowa. I mean, that's when you get by far the bulk of your reps. And so if you're a 2, a 3, a 4, I mean, there's 5 guys in the quarterback room a lot of times. And during the season, only 1 and 2 take real reps. And even number 2 doesn't take as many reps as number 1. And so just in general, your total workload is so much bigger in the spring. It's repetition. It's like anything else, the 10,000 hour rule. The more you do something, the more time you go through the same plays, the more times you see different defensive looks, the better you get at reacting to it. And that's at every position, but arguably the most at quarterback.
Yeah, and as you mentioned last year, and even now when you chuckle and say that, I mean, think about all that's put on you, at responsibility, signals, calls, changing plays. You've got to know everybody's move, not just your move. A lot of position guys can go ahead and just say, okay, I know my spot. But you've got to know where everybody's going. But I even think, as you mentioned too, not just with quarterback and the offense, but Iowa's going to be very strong, at least before injuries, or if there are any injuries, the defensive backfield, a lot of guys coming back. But it's been well known, James, that 75% of the Iowa football team that played last year has not had a full spring practice, either not injured or as a starter. That's pretty amazing when you talk about what they did last year without a lot of experience. And I'm not one to overblow spring football. But I think, a lot of people will tell you, it's just guys running around in shells and helmets and shoulder pads. And, it's going to be interesting to see how many of the fans show up this Saturday. We record this on Tuesday afternoon. It airs Friday night. So tomorrow, how many people are going to show up on Saturday for that first open to the public practice? So I'm just very curious on your thoughts as the development as a team in general. Are they going to be a little nervous, excited? I mean, it won't be like a home game.
I think spring football in general probably, is different for different teams on how important it is to them. And I think if you probably ask Coach Ferentz, we definitely are a program with how we build our athletes and how we recruit people, that it's kind of a foundational pillar. USC might be able to skip spring ball. At Iowa, we believe in it. We believe in development. And so it's a big deal. What it actually means come this fall, I think that's hard to predict. But when you think of 75% of the guys that just haven't gone through those 15 practices, which are longer with more reps, and it's more evenly spaced reps, the ones don't take all of them. It's just so much work that gets done, and from every position. And really, I think, quarterbacks are big. Linemen, offense and defense, just getting a better understanding for the physicality of it, because you really get to bang on each other in the spring. It definitely pays dividends, and it's a foundation of our program, no doubt.
You just hit up on a couple of things that I was alluding to, and I'm glad you jumped in there. Alaric Jackson's gone. Tristan Wirfs the year before that. We've had Tristan on this show. He wins the Super Bowl his rookie year with Tampa Bay. But when you say, and then Kellenberger is quitting, has left football due to injury and other things. He's going to focus on other things in his life. So he would have had a chance to start, or at least had some experience. So now as a quarterback coming back for another year as the leader, starting quarterback in Spencer Petras, now he's going to have to talk to some linemen, talk them through some things. Again, I want you to highlight this as far as spring goes in the meeting rooms. Now that just isn't on the field, but even in the meeting rooms, you get a chance now to communicate with a lot of guys that are going to be protecting you, in Spencer Petras's case, who don't have experience playing or starting.
Yeah, no, it's multifaceted. It's one of those things where, you can learn something, and you can learn it in a non-pressured environment and in the meeting room, and that's great. And knowing where the ball should go if what happens. It's completely different though when you see it and it happens live, and here comes the linebacker off the edge. And it takes seeing that 5, 10, 20 times before all of a sudden it just becomes second nature. Oh, the ball goes there immediately. And that's something, that you're kind of highlighting Petras has missed, but that's for every position, quite frankly. There's no replacing live reps. And spring is, because they can space out practices, because they don't have to have a game to prep for. It's fundamentals, and it's all the basics.
Thank you so much, my friend. We'll look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks again for tuning in to our clip show with Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. The best of the best. Man, we've got some great interviews and some great folks joining us. So I'm glad you got to see that for the first time or watch it again for a second or third time. Love to have you viewing the show. And thanks again to our advertisers and sponsors who make this show possible. And thanks to you for tuning in. So for Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, that's all from me. Thanks to all of you.